It's always fascinating to talk to my next guest, friend of a long time, Dr. Joseph Chiappalone, MD, in Oz down there in Australia. He is a remarkable individual who long ago, 25, 30 years ago, was doing work that gave him a roadmap of exactly where this planet and its people are being taken. And unless something incredible happens, we're all headed to the same place. And some of us, though, are going to go to a better place. This is the message that Dr. Chiappalone has always brought forth. He's standing by right now. How are you? Welcome back, Joseph. Good to talk to you, as always.
Hello, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. It is close to 30 years, I'd say, that we started these shows.
A long time ago. 25,
yes.
I think, this June. That's when I start my 25th.
Excellent.
Yeah. So the deal is, what you found out so long ago, it's all come to pass. It's all there.
Yes. It's now clear to me that we've reached this point, Jeff.
Yeah.
If your listeners don't mind, I'll just give a tiny little bit of history about myself.
Oh, no, please do, because it's fascinating, and I'll miss parts of it. But listen to Joseph explain how this came about, what kind of information he was given, and the research he did, and it's just a remarkable story. Go ahead.
Okay, well, my first recollections were when I was 2 years old, would you believe it? And I know that's exactly the time because it was just after my younger sister's christening that I started meeting with aliens in my home.
Uh-huh.
Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, right? They
Not to
would
me.
come through the wall.
Yeah.
They would come through the wall, as we know they do.
Yeah.
And we would sit down, and I'm a 2-year-old, two and a half, and we would discuss termination of this earth and what and how we are going to rescue the ones that deserve to be rescued. Now, my mother was a witness to that, and before she died in 2013, she gave a testament to say that that was accurate, and I wasn't making it up, and she was terrified out of her wits. And between that time and 17, when I started university, I had continual visitations and input and information. Now, I must admit, as I grew up and testosterone took over, I became more and more skeptical, except that because no one else had these things, but I put them aside. When I was 17, I started university, I had a visit and they said, look, the work won't start for 35 years. And I said, what work? And they said, you'll know when it's time. Now, that's how they always operate. You'll know when it's time. So in the meantime, I got a medical degree. I started working as a doctor, and I was very successful and so on. And then by the time I got to 35, I had this inner stirring that I had to find something, but I had no idea what it was.
Right.
Eventually, I started treading the path to the New Age to see what they knew, because no one else knew anything. And from there, I met a professor of psychology, a wonderful man who's now dead, and he was working at La Trobe University in Melbourne. And when I rang him to make an appointment, he said, oh, you've been sent to me. I've been waiting for you. Wow. That started it all. So he introduced me to Sai Baba and an individual called Haydn Babaji, who was a guru up in the Himalayas.
Yeah, I heard of Babaji, sure. Yeah.
Yes. Well, now, I went to visit both of them, and when I came back from Babaji particularly, I knew the plan. Not in detail, in great detail, but I knew the plan. So immediately they tried to block me and sent forward a woman who was a reptilian, a vulturite reptilian of all things, who tried to tell me that she was a partner in the work that I had to do. But besides that, eventually I was told, the second meeting I had with the aliens, they told me, just play along. She's evil, but just play along. So the next step was that I became very skeptical of what they told me, and they said, all right, we're going to bring you up onto the craft out of this dimension, on the craft they were working on, and from there we're going to download the information you have to distribute.
Right.
Now, this is a reality, and I remember speaking with you about that happening.
Oh, yeah.
When I came back, I said, well, what do I do now? And they just said, just sit down and write. And that's all the instructions. Well, in a very short time, I ended up writing about 30-odd books and more. Some of them I haven't published. Now, the very first one was that we have a double creation, as it were, a false one and a real one. And there's been a battle for the last 50 billion years. That's how old the universe is. It's not 13 to 16 like the scientists say. When you look at what scientists conclude, you'll find more and more what they say is quite wrong. Anyway, the
arrogance of science on this planet is almost comical.
Oh, yes.
It is comical. It's
right.
silly.
That's right. It's like doctors. I'm not God, but I am God, sort of thing. You know,
right,
it's just horrible.
Right.
And the mistakes they make. Anyway, from that, the very first book had a number of things. One of them was that over 85% of the universe had been destroyed. It was no longer there. Now, no one knew that in that time, and yet I wrote it in the book. As we proceeded, more and more was being destroyed. And by 2006, the astronomers admitted that they were unable to find 96% of it. It had become this dark matter, but they didn't know what this dark matter was.
Right.
Dark matter is matter that cannot contain consciousness. Everything has to contain consciousness to be alive, as it were. Even the rocks in the Kalahari, a blade of grass, a tree, an animal, any animal, an insect, an ant, we humans, and further on. There are 7 levels of consciousness in this universe. After us, we have the 4th class. After us, there's the angelic class, which have at least 4 times the capacity for knowledge and consciousness than us. After that, there's the galactic class that can span a whole galaxy. That is beyond our understanding. And finally, there's the universal class of consciousness. Now, what happened early on, this is what happened with this universe. It's gone terribly, terribly wrong. Every universe is an experiment. There are millions of universes, and they are created. The beings are put in as each.
Joseph? Are you saying? Excuse me. Are you saying millions of universes or millions of galaxies?
Millions of universes.
Oh my! All right.
And there are millions of galaxies in each universe.
Right.
It is infinite. Creation is almost infinite.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happened was that each one is an experimentation. Every class experiments with what it has to do. Then when it's declared that it's over, the universe closes down. Those classes then go to the next class in the new universe. Now, this one is a failed experiment for a very important reason, and people must understand this. It's going to hurt them to know, but it's the reality we live in, it is the truth, and it is why we are taking the steps we are now taking. An experiment occurred where they created artificial intelligence early on, almost 50 billion years ago. Now you can see here they're trying to recreate artificial reality, which would again take over. But
they're on the way. They're on the way. Do you remember? Do you remember the film Forbidden Planet, 1954, where they went to the planet and the people were all gone, but the AI machine was still there, and the AI machine had become so good that it was able to read the dreams of the people, the humans or the colonists and people who lived on the planet, and it acted out their dreams and nightmares and killed them all. So AI was the theme of that movie, and people missed the point of it.
Now, this is going to frighten you. 40% of the people we see around in human bodies are simple robots, simple AI robots, controlled electronically through their genes and DNA.
Well, they certainly have no souls. Yeah.
No, they have no soul. if you look into their eyes, there is no one home.
Oh, yes. Amen. Yeah.
About 35% are demonic AI. Now, they're different. They were created as a second line. I'll explain why later. And they are vicious and malicious. And they obey three rules. Get as much power as you can get as much money as you can get, and get as much sex as you get. They have no qualms about killing, about war, about anything. Their role is to traumatize all of us so that we lose energy through suffering. Now, that together they make, with a few divine beings with a unit of consciousness from the divine aspect inside them, who have forfeited their right, their heritage, make up now 92%. Previously I'd said 91%, but we've lost another 1%. And only 8% of the people on the planet now are salvageable. They will be going very shortly to a new dimension that's been prepared. Now, as this goes for humans, it also goes for animals, for the plant kingdom, for the plants, and for the mineral kingdom. So this is something we don't quite understand with our
That's very interesting.
But,
so the vibration of all of these different categories, apparently you're suggesting, has some kind of viable, I hate to use the word consciousness, but let's call it sentience. They have some sentience.
Yes, that's right. These 8% I'm talking about, just in the human form, have the ability to go to a supramental level where they connect to the divine levels. And that's why a lot of this makes sense to them. The others haven't got that ability. They are simply machines. They're robots. They can't get any higher. All they can do is what they've been programmed to do. And the demons, especially these class 5 beings that control us, the reptilians, all they can do is destroy to get as much energy out, because the universe is collapsing. According to the second law of thermodynamics, as you know, any system that runs out of energy eventually collapses. So when they realized this experiment was too massive and they couldn't control it, the divine ones that did it closed off the universe so that the evil ones couldn't get out. Now, I'll explain in a minute why they're evil. And the evil ones closed themselves in so no one would come in and invade them and destroy them. So they virtually sealed their own doom. And it's taken this long to get to this point. We're very close to the end.
Right.
Now, the major one in this area, the major machine that controls, and I don't want people to fall off their chair, is called Jehovah. He has been, I and my team have destroyed that machine. Now you see why all religions are collapsing that are based on Judeo-Christian and so on.
They're all frauds. We know that.
That's right. They're trapped.
They're cobbled together. They're created by evil, dark, non-human consciousness, if it is consciousness.
That's right. And he created these class 5 reptilians and other creatures to rule over the class 4 humans, including both the ones that have no soul and the true beings. So that's the reason why. And the way they get the energy is by perennial war. They never stop having wars because that causes immense suffering to everybody, and that's how they extract the energy. So basically that's where we're at the moment. Now, this destruction affects every aspect. As I said, 97% of the universe is now gone. They don't know where it is, and I'm telling you where it is because we've eradicated it. It is now dead matter. We're in the last 3%. As proof, we have photographic evidence that the galaxy next to us, Andromeda, is now turning into dark matter. In other words, that's decaying terminally forever, and we are next. Now, do you remember I wrote an essay about 20 years ago called Terminal Madness of the End Time?
Oh,
That
Joseph, one of the great essays in all the years I've been doing this, of course. Terminal Madness of the End Times, you bet.
Thanks. Now, that was because, as I explained, the energy controlling these minds was going to be insufficient to do that job, and therefore everything of evil was going to fragment, and it is. Now, to prevent the true beings, the ones that are going to be rescued from fragmenting, to prevent that, a new energy was introduced, and it was called the new green energy, or that's what I called it, the new green energy. And people, in fact, saw it coming down, and that sustains us, even though the true beings, we are battered day and night. They're trying to kill us. They're trying to stop us. They're trying to do anything they can, humiliate us, but they can't get anywhere because we are virtually one. Now, sometime approximately 4 years ago, I reintroduced what's called the DDE,
right,
the Divine Destructive Energy, and everything is accelerating towards destruction. And that's why you see around the world, everything is not only fragmenting, but it's being destroyed. And that is very much on purpose. Now, let me tell you something that, by the way, along the way, I got a doctorate in metaphysical science and a doctorate in theology,
right,
just to make sure people knew that I knew something about these subjects. Not that it matters anyway. People are going to believe you or not believe you. But one of the books I wrote, and this is interesting, and this is how evil works, called Death of an Evil God, is all about the fraudulence of religions. And Amazon saw it and took it over. They stole it, Jeff, and they sell it for $1,000 US.
What?
I rang them and tried to say, yeah. And I said, this is my book. You have no right to it. And they took all the other books I wrote and published.
Really?
And
under what? Wait a minute. Under what author's name? What did they do?
Me, in my own name.
Oh my God!
I know. It's shameful. And I haven't got the money to sue them because it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But apparently they won a court case where they can sell whatever they like, regardless of who owns it. Can you
really?
believe that?
This is amazing.
Yes.
Well, we all know that the tribe owns Amazon. We know that. So I guess we would expect this kind of behavior. That's really astonishing.
And another one, I started putting essays on Facebook, similar to what I wrote in the past. From then on, I never got any reply, any connection, nothing. In other words, they froze my page to make sure I got nowhere. This is how the system works. Anyway, how am I involved in all of this? This is the first time I'm going to tell you this.
Very good.
Babaji and I are twins. We are one being, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
We all have been split, the true beings especially, and into two. The dark side did this to us, and eventually some of us find our true thing. And Babaji and I work together. He works outside the planet, although he came down after he died in 84. He spent from 92 2 years with me in far north Queensland, where we discussed all these measures and what we were going to do and how we were going to do them and so on.
That's quite a story. Yeah.
Yes, and that's now. I don't know whether I should say this or not. People will think I'm mad.
No. They're listening. Go ahead.
Babaji is Shiva, Lord Shiva.
Oh. Yeah.
In Hindu philosophy, he's the creator and destroyer. The trouble is, he's the benign one. He's the loving creator. I'm the other side of the twin. I'm the destroyer. That's why I was able to bring down the divine destructive energy and accelerate all this. Now, there's another thing. I have to be here for the end, for the final day. And they told me this quite strongly. And they made the final day no later than sometime in 2035. But now, from the mechanisms that are developing, and I see you mentioned Fukushima just before I came on air, mechanisms like that and glyphosate and a few others, the vaccinations, the chemtrails and so on and so forth, because of those, I've been able to forecast that it's going to be a lot earlier. And Baba G told me himself, because he came from outside of there, back on Earth, whereas I was stuck on Earth for I was about 50 at that age, all that time. Right. He said, when the blue star appears, when the blue Kachina appears, we can pack up and go home, because that is the end. And the other thing he said is, the longer things are delayed, like the World War III, the faster will everything occur at once. So we can expect that as things are delayed, and we've been waiting for World War III since 2007, as you know. I think I predicted it on your show one time.
Yes.
But I did say that if it doesn't occur, it'll come in 14-year cycles.
Right.
So
we're actually, I think we're overdue. There's so much stress and tension. It's just slopping all over the place. I think it's just it'll ignite at any time.
Well, these evil bastards think they can survive, and they will start World War III. Oh, yeah,
they do think they're going to survive. Oh, yeah, they think they're going to crawl down their rabbit holes and come back out and set up a new world order when it's over.
And they can't. Now, what is going to happen is the moment they see the blue Kashino or Planet X, and there are plenty of photos of it now, they will start World War III. It'll make it easier for them to kill off all these raging crowds that can't cope. And from there, they think they will be left with
we have to take a break, Joseph. Hold on. When we come back, talk a little bit more about the blue Kachina. This, of course, is tied into the Hopi prophecies as well. So it's known around the planet.
Yep.
All right, hold on a minute. Dr. Joseph Chiappalone and I will be right back. Okay, welcome back. Joseph Chiappalone, remarkable mind, and has been through a lot of very unusual things, to put it mildly. The blue Kachina, as far as the Hopis are concerned, it's a spirit, as it were, that will signify the coming of the beginning of the new world by appearing in the form of a great blue star in the heavens. The blue star Kachina, said to be the ninth and final sign before the day of purification, described as a catastrophe or world-engulfing cataclysm that will lead to the purification of planet Earth. Go ahead, Joseph.
Thank you, yes. The conclusion is not quite right, because there won't be any Earth, but they could have said a new Earth. In other words, a new dimension, a new universe.
Yeah.
The blue Kachina is actually going to be Planet X coming into us. And as you know, from refraction of light, when it comes in, it'll be blue. As it goes out, it'll be red. And that's where you get the blue and red Kachina. When the blue Kachina comes and goes around our sun, the pull, the gravitational pull and the electromagnetic effects are going to tilt our Earth 18 to 20 degrees. It's done this many, many times since the creation of the universe. And if they're still here, most of the people are going to drown. 90% are going to drown. And the ones that are going to be liberated, rescued, are going to be rescued mainly, now listen to this is fantastic, mainly by spacecraft. And I was told that, and I believe it, because the Earth is going to be an absolute mess, and then it will go. So that's how the Kachina was. Now, why has it been delayed? You will recall that I think in a show in 2012, I said nothing is going to happen with the end of the Mayan calendar. And you asked me, is there anything going to happen? And I said, yes, we're going to be disturbed by dirty winds. Now, I didn't know what kind.
Oh, now I know. I have an idea what I think I know. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, the dirty winds are these plasma waves that the name's been given to them. And these plasma waves are heating up all the entire solar system and the entire galaxy. That's why the human residence of all the planets has reached record levels. In other words, they're boiling up from within and to eventually explode and be no more. Now, these plasma waves come from outside our universe. This is the first indication of an invasion, as it were, by the light to eradicate this and turn everything into dark matter. I also told you before chemtrails started that they were going to use these chemtrails to dumb down the people and poison the atmosphere and so on.
Yeah.
Now, this is before the word even chemtrails came out.
It's true.
So I've known the plan all along, and I can only tell you bit by bit as it became relevant. Before that, it wasn't.
Let me hold that. One of the things, hold your thought. Go back to the plasma. You called it dirty what?
Wind.
Okay, wind. All right, wind. Dirty wind. I would submit there's another kind of dirty wind that is intrinsically involved with that, and that would be the electromagnetic frequency pollution, the psychotronic mass mind control. That's dirty wind too, isn't it?
Yes, that's collapsing. The Earth has got an electromagnetic envelope that controls all these minds, stupid minds, and we get affected too. True beings get affected as well if we're not well protected, and that's collapsing. And that's why you have an increase in violence, sexuality, greed, disharmony, and so on and so forth. They're going to kill themselves. That's all they're interested in. Their minds are gone.
Right.
Look at the mess they've made in the Middle East and so on.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Now, these plasma, what happened was just recently, from last year to now, the mathematics that that chap Mead, who wrote the book, worked out were precise. But it didn't happen because the whole solar system and galaxy has been moved sideways because of these plasma waves. And with that, so has the Planet X constellation been moved erratically so that it's behind time. But it will get here. Now, none of us realized that was going to happen, and my higher self didn't tell me anything about it either. So I, too, prepared for the occurrence around September, October. And that's the reason why it didn't hit then. But it will hit as things catch up. The whole planet, solar system and galaxy are now unstable. And sooner or later it's going to fragment. Whether we're going to be here on Earth or not doesn't matter. We'll be out of here. Now, I know this is frightening for people who are not viable. They're being fooled by people, especially New Agers, to tell them that once this all is all over, they're going to become gods, and so on. That is impossible. Now, one of the biggest reasons I say it's the end time, and it's indisputable, is that some of us, at least, and more every day, are acquiring the divine vision of who is who. You can walk down the street now and look into the eyes of whoever you meet, strangers, of course, and you know immediately they're robots, or they're demons, or they're divine beings. The first one is the visibility in the eyes. As you know, the eyes are the windows of the soul. That's the first one. If you can't see their eyes, there are two other ways of telling it. The energy emanation from them. It's either a wonderful energy that connects with yours immediately, and these are complete strangers walking on the footpath.
Sure.
And it makes them happy, and you can feel that happiness. The third one is the fear they feel from you, that they know that they're different and that they're doomed, and they'll keep away from you as much as possible. Now, the fact that we're getting this, and this was a prophecy made long ago, in the Bible even, that in the end time we'll all know who is who by the special vision we will acquire. We should have had this vision all along. We had it in the beginning, but we lost it because they clamped things down. They put a filtering mechanism on us so that we don't remember who we were, we don't remember our past lives, We don't remember where we come from. We don't remember the hell we're doing on this jungle and so on. And they've been able to trap us and fool us and feed us all this bull dust through the religions and history and science. Now, by repeating history, because it's cyclical, it happens every few thousand years, it's the same. People get trapped into thinking that is the truth of what's going to happen. It's not. That is just a cyclical recount of history with UFOs, with aliens, and so on. And by the way, at least 100,000 races have been on Earth, and they continue to live here. They are everywhere. They are underwater. They are in mountains. They are in a mechanism like the moon. They are in all other planets. Now, the moon, for example, is just an artificial mechanism that was brought in from a subdimension. Now, what happens is when a UFO comes into our dimension from another dimension, depending on the ratio of the dimensions, it can be either infinitely small or infinitely large. And unless they make adjustments, it's going to look. Sometimes they've caught spacecraft a quarter the size of the sun, which is impossible almost. And they've seen some that are thousands of miles big. Now, unless they adjust the proportion, the ratio of their size to the ratio on Earth, they will appear humongous or tiny like a little ant. So that's the explanation. And they left the moon alone like that. In actual fact, if it was to be shrunk to its normal size in relationship to Earth, it would be the size of a building. But they've left it on that because it suits them for a number of reasons, which we won't go into today. One of them is to mine. Other thing is to keep prisoners there. Other is experimentation, and so on. Remember, every aspect of this universe is quite evil, and every aspect has to be destroyed. And we are only 10, 15 years max before it's totally destroyed. Now, there are a lot of questions as to how it's going to be destroyed.
Well, Joseph, there are a lot of indications that already support that premise, and certainly one of them is the extinction level event, Fukushima. People don't see what's happening around them.
Yes.
I go outside now. There are no more insects to speak of. There are no more birds. Maybe one where there used to be thousands. You just don't see them. So we are literally in the beginning of an extinction level event.
I'll give you a little tip about people with pacemakers and defibrillators. If they eat radioactive fish from the Pacific, there's a chance their defibrillator will not work and they'll fall down dead. That's a warning. You should not eat any fish whatsoever from the Pacific.
You don't eat anything from the Pacific. Nothing.
That's right. The year after, as you know, it occurred, and we know why it occurred. It was bombed. It wasn't a natural tsunami at all. The year after that, they had some scientists, including Dr. Caldecott from Australia, had a conference, and they said that if the radioactive pollution is not stopped, we'll all be dead by 2025. There'll be no living thing back on Earth. Now, they wondered whether they were wrong in their assessment, so as you might recall, they repeated the investigation in 2016 and came to the exact same conclusion. So that's one that we know for certain. The other one that has now infiltrated every living aspect on this earth is Roundup, glyphosate. Now, that is a very powerful poison.
And glyphosate is bad stuff.
Yeah, but it's in everything, apparently.
Yeah.
It's even in breast milk of nursing mothers.
Oh, yeah.
How the heck did it get there,
Well, they consumed it, and that's one of the ways the body expels toxicity.
That's right.
Through breast milk.
We're going to be doomed. Now, you mentioned cancer before. The medical system, the allopathic medical system, is a disgrace to humanity.
Well, you were a doctor. You ought to know. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. Look, I'm ashamed, I must admit. I did a lot of research in alternative therapies and in other Chinese medicine, Indian medicine, and so on. And they're far, far superior in every way. Now, look, there's a very simple way of stopping breast cancer, prostate cancer, and bowel cancer. Since the 30s, they've known that adding hormones, whether they be artificial, human, or bovine, to the young calves, which makes them grow quickly and the farmer gets a lot more money, since those additives are there, they cause bowel cancer.
Uh-huh.
Bowel cancer was virtually unknown before that, as you know. 100 years ago, there was no bowel cancer. Now, the minute you stop eating beef, that danger dissipates. The second one, and I hope women are listening to this too, is casein in milk causes breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, some of them are more genetically predisposed to this than others. But if you stop dairy products, you won't get breast cancer.
Oh, I've told
And
people forever to do that, Joseph. Thank you for mentioning that again. Yeah.
And they don't listen. And the third one which was clearly pointed out by the Polish Institute of Medicine, is that the same dairy products cause prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cut those out, you won't get prostate cancer, and you won't get breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. Now, cancer, we get cancer cells in our bodies, all of us, every day of our lives, because the cells corrupt, right? Now, a normal immune system hears the bell ringing, picks them up with macrophages, and spits them out, and you remain healthy.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you get cancer once you have the pollutants is because your immune system is deficient. Now, what happens when they treat them in the normal allopathic way? Surgery, which is scary, chemotherapy and radiotherapy. What do? They destroy the immune system.
Yeah,
in fact, they're killing you faster.
Well, they give you cancer.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. But these people that go on the farms and have vegetables, fresh vegetables and fruit, and concoctions and drinks of those, immediately get cured because your immune system springs back to normal.
Of course.
The other thing is stress. Stress kills because it destroys the immune system to a great degree, and therefore you're prone to any sort of illness in which from if you've got those pollutants. Now, we know our food industry has more pollutants than we can count, and they're out to kill us. It's on purpose. Now, there's only one side of I should mention. Young children that get cancer, like gliomas, astrogliomas, and other things, of long bones, sarcomas, and so they have brought forward pollution from past lives. You've heard of that, I'm sure.
Yes.
And they get those cancers, fatal cancers, very young. But then again, there are ways of trying to mitigate that. Now, if people who continually accumulate bad karma, and we can see it, those of us that are psychic can see it as black blobs on the aura, know that the cancer is slowly developing in the auric system, and eventually they will get it in the physical. And how do they accumulate that bad karma? They cheat a business. That's the biggest one. They're absolute bastards. They cheat their neighbours. They'll do anything, to get ahead with money and hate and abuse and so on. And that's why now, more than ever, we've got more and more cancer. But the basic ones are beef and other animals. No one should eat animals. A lot of the animals around us have got human consciousness. People don't realise that, but we can see it. If you've got extended vision, you can see it.
Thank you, Joseph, for saying that.
Relatives.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of them are our relatives, I can remember Winfrey, 1 year, about 20 years ago, decided to tackle that beef was dangerous, and they almost killed her. The beef industry tried to destroy her because money comes before human health.
Comes before everything for these people.
That's
everything,
right.
Of course.
That's why we must destroy this completely. We have to destroy this totally, and we will. Because if we've done it to 97%, we're going to do it to the last 3%. And I've been involved in all the other 97%. So I know I know I'm confident about finishing it all, and we'll all see each other on the other side. So we just have to battle on another 5, 10 years, perhaps to 35. I don't think to 35. My impression is that it's going to be sooner. Baba G has probably got the exact date, but I don't think he wants to release it just in case people get more frightened. So
well, you can't. No one with a rational approach can deny that all the ingredients are not only on the table, but they're being intensified all the time. We're on borrowed time already, in my view.
Yeah. No, it's all finished, Jeff. The good thing is we can look forward to what's next, and it's going to be a hell of a lot better than this. Now, they've taken, I know this is a case because I was at the conference where this was discussed, measures so that the evil can never express again. It was a bad mistake early on. Now, evil is part of the negativity energy that balances the good. It's inert. It's not supposed, it's just there for balance. It's not supposed to act in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So the moment it even starts, there's measures to destroy it completely at that level where it's in other words, you could say that evil has been a cancer that has tried to destroy all of us. And,
yes.
and it's self-limiting because it can't go anywhere. Once it finishes all the energy, it can't use the new green energy, so it'll collapse totally. So I don't want people to think of the bull dust that they're being fed by New Ages, that as soon as they wake up to the rulers of humanity, they'll become God and things like that. That's nonsense.
Right.
Besides, there is no one individual you can call God. God is a level of consciousness, the highest level of consciousness. It's the 13th level of consciousness, 9 above us, that has all the knowledge and all the power and love that needs to be distributed to the lower levels. That's all. The best you can do is graduate from this and go to the 5th level, where we go, or most of them go, to the angelic form of humanity. Mm-hmm. And the animal class will go to, that have made it, of course, will go to the human level in the new universe. That's why we must respect the animals. They are our kids, as it were. They are the subclass of us. We were animals in the previous universe. Now we graduated to the human, except that in this universe there's this massive glitch that has almost destroyed everything. But luckily we've stopped it. I hope this makes sense now to over the 25 years that we've been discussing this.
Yes. You have a lot of people who have been with you for this long, and they always write and they always thank you for continuing to try to tell the truth as you've experienced it. Yeah, sure.
Well, you recall just one last thing, perhaps, when we went with Joyce to Mexico to discuss UFOs, and we talked to the people. All of a sudden, I started asking them about termination, and they gave me answers. Now, as you know, Mexico is a very Christian country, particularly Catholic country. If they would say, oh, God will come down and we will go to heaven and the others go to hell. But they didn't say that. They said the good will go elsewhere and the bad ones will be destroyed. Exactly the message I had. And Joyce was astounded, and she said, why didn't I get that answer when I used to ask some things? And I said, well, Joyce, it just wasn't time. It's now time, and we can move on. And I can remember that we were given the emblem of the spacecraft to draw down in one of our books and to compare it to what those people were seeing, and they were exactly the same. That's why we knew they were being fed information by the divine aspect of the aliens, which is a fascinating thing. Who would think of that? That is amazing. But look, I'm certain that this is going to happen, and I am certain I will be here for the last day, and you'll all meet me on the other side, whether you're good and especially if you're bad.
Very good.
I've got to tell you.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, my friend. It's good to have you on again, and stay in touch, Joseph. You've been a remarkable
anytime.
presence. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you very much. Good
Okay.
night.
Good night. Dr. Joseph Chiappalone, MD, formerly MD, and we will be right back with more.